All right. So the first part, I thought I would ask you about openings, like opening ideas. So very often I have seen that you bring some kind of signature in your lines, like something that only you will do, and it's not there in correspondence database. It's not in engine games. It's probably some of the ideas are not even suggested by engines, and you bring your own version. This also brings me to the other point that when you were growing, you
Hmm.
continuously played one line as black. I remember in World Junior you were playing the Sicilian with this knight c6 bishop d7, and then at some point you were
Yeah.
playing only martial. While somebody can debate, yeah, like it's important to grow as a player. You have to play many different lines from both colors, but you always stick to what you believed, and that's what you kept on doing. Before we discuss this particular position, can you tell us how you come up with such thing?
Uh, well, I think the main reason for sticking to one line is lack of work ethics and laziness. So,
That's very modest. That's
but
that's way too modest. I don't buy this at all.
but since I was always very competitive, and I hated to lose, so I needed to make sure that this one single line works.
Hmm.
Therefore, that's what I did. I mean, I played one line, but I analyzed it so deep that I will not be surprised. But you can see in the modern players the same style, same approach prevails. Because the days when you could do things that Ivanchuk was doing, playing
Hmm.
any kind of line and surprising the opponent, I think unfortunately are gone. Because now there are just too many good lines against certain openings. Can't really
True,
surprise the players anymore.
true. But still, there are players who stick to limited lines. Let's say, for instance, you or Ding or Sowesley, and there are also players who are like who are playing lots of different stuff. It can be Anand, Hikaru, or so on. So this is just, I think, the approach, right? Like how you want to go about
Uh,
it.
yeah, well, when it comes to Anand, of course, it's very different because his knowledge and his ability to work and go deep into chess is probably not going to be matched anytime soon. I think him and Kramnik and Gelfand, these are the guys that uh, I envy. I really envy. I mean, their ability to work on chess and their ability to dedicate themselves to the game.
Although I think once you said your favorite player is Ivanchuk, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes, yes.
that you really like, yeah.
I think I share a lot of my good and bad sides with Chucky.
All right. Getting to this game, so you came up with, if I check online games, there were probably 200 games played by so many good players,
Uh
and
huh.
you opted for something that was never played. And the other day I was seeing this in in CBM, that you even analyzed it back in 2005 or 6, but got a chance to play
Yes.
in 2017, and that is
Uh huh.
against Magnus.
Yeah.
So how you came up with this?
Well, I think I played one game where I went queen e1, a5, bishop c2,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of said, all right, if why not bishop c2 immediately? And then I thought, okay, e5.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that after e5, knight d5 is a good move.
Yeah, this is
cd,
this.
bishop before,
Yeah, this.
before d.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then it seemed that bishop c2 is a good move then.
But when Magnus
But the
replied,
thing is, sorry to interrupt you. The
sure.
way I analyzed chess back in the day, now I'm a bit better. But back in the day, I would just find one idea,
Mm-hmm.
go one move further, and just say, yeah, okay, this is playable, let's do it.
Right,
Not really very.
right. So when you played bishop c2 and Magnus played rook d8, in your annotations you
Hmm.
wrote that you immediately thought for 17 minutes. So this was not part of preparation anymore.
It was, but I forgot. And
Okay.
then I started understanding why is rook d8 not good.
So this is this common syndrome. Like we know this particular move is not suggested by computer, so it is probably not good. And then subsequently thinking why this does not work.
Well, I mostly analyzed natural moves like rook d8, but
Right.
at that moment I just didn't remember. And yeah, then I thought, okay, if this was not the main move, then there has to be a reason for it.
Sure. And you came up with this incredible resource. And this is again typical you. We will deal with the extent sacrifice segment later because I found there are like so many things that I wanted to share with the audience. And
Hmm.
yeah, so when you played a3, I assume you saw at least until here, if not the bishop h7 check part, because it's kind of hard to.
Uh, yeah, well, if I had seen knight b1, queen c1, I mean,
So
then
you
I
went
would probably play.
here, yeah?
I mean, instead of b4, if I, yeah, after
Knight b1
c5,
and queen
b6,
c1, sure.
yeah, I overlooked this thing. If I had seen it, I would probably play this, and
Right, right, right.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's that's a very good position.
Sure, but
But
yeah,
yeah,
please.
I saw that after c5, he has no easy way to bring his queen back.
Hmm.
So I thought this probably is interesting.
Sure, sure. And just quickly, I'll go through the game, at least until this part. And this was a
Well,
very.
taking on h7 was I saw that it's not so easy,
Hmm.
but this was I don't think since I was maybe like 20 or even less,
Hmm.
I took on h7 against anybody.
Okay, this I have seen in number of your games. Yeah, you're a very practical player. You would go for such blow number of times. Actually, I also have a segment for that where you are making moves which is not necessarily the best from a engine point of view.
Yeah, I'm very impractical. I think sometimes I'm too romantic.
I,
So
I was just about to say it's incredibly practical because when you are beating top players like this, it doesn't really matter if it is Indian's top choice or not. I think the aesthetic part and the practical part comes into play more. But okay, so okay, this
oh,
game,
I thought it wasn't actually practical, but
okay, all right. So and then yeah, you won the game. Uh, my next question is this. This here I'm also I'm personally involved a little bit because. First of all, I prepared this line with Hari. We checked quite a lot of stuff. I think this we did before Hari was playing in Vacancy. And
yeah.
I also picked up this line. And when we were playing against Armenia in Ningbo, I think I was playing on third board. and
Hmm.
uh, and yeah, we were also revising, and we saw all sorts of lines. And again, you come up with something that has never been played before. So there are like 1,000 games. Okay, now it shows there are 57 games with h4, but you are the first one to play h4. Uh,
Yeah,
this is also pre
I
Alpha Zero.
yeah. Actually, when I look at many Alpha Zero concepts, I find that those are the moves that I would play.
Hmm.
But I guess everybody's thinking like that.
Right, and also I was very amazed. Like this whole thing, it was just the idea was very profound in a way. It's not like uh, h4 is crushing on king side or something. As the game progressed, yeah, like knight d7, g4, and suddenly it became very positional to some extent. If
Yeah, I think it's all about grabbing the space.
yeah, so so tell me how you got to h4, like because I don't even think back then engines were suggesting such moves.
Yeah, well, I saw this. The position has potential to become really boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that generally you if you want to win a game of chess in such a solid opening,
Mm-hmm.
you have to change the trend
Mm-hmm.
because also, for example, if you play this line with black,
Okay.
you're kind of expected to defend a little bit and play this kind of a positional game,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you might be slightly worse on something.
Right.
But when you completely change the person's approach, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't expect to defend the king in this position,
Yeah.
then they become uncomfortable. So I think this is more like a psychological move rather than objectively a good chess move.
True, true. I see in the chat, Ramesh, who was our coach in Ningbo, he's saying painful and fascinating to see the game live. I think I would also agree. It was very painful to see, but at the same time, we had to appreciate the level of your play in this game and also in this tournament. I think you bet Karyakin also next.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of your very crucial game, if I may say so.
Yes.
And yeah, you had to win on demand, and this I think you're fighting for place in candidates, right? If you like whoever
Yes.
wins,
I lost the first one.
you
Yeah.
lost the first one, and
And this
here,
second game.
yeah, and here you unleash the novelty bishop c4. Can you tell us a bit how you get there, and were you hoping to get something like this in such a crucial game?
Well, I knew this move. I knew that objectively it might not be the best move to play in a long game,
Mm-hmm.
but since at that moment there was, no way going back. I mean, I couldn't really hope for win by positional ways
Mm-hmm.
because I was too nervous.
Mm-hmm.
It was the time to go, as the French say, va banque, just to risk it all.
True.
And this move is kind of interesting, and I think it's not easy to find the best moves for black in practical game.
Sure. By the way, what was the best move here? I think rook h8 was fine. He was doing quite well
Yeah,
until a certain point, right?
yeah. I think he has to play b5.
B5 here.
Yeah, to create a
Yeah,
counterplay.
I must like not very easy to understand even. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is and in the game he got completely crushed very quickly. Yeah, somewhere here I think it's already over.
Yeah. Then the pieces don't come out. Or knight f df8. I
knight
think he had
df8
to
still.
play.
Yeah, knight df8 still he could do. But yeah, I mean this was also a rapid game, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. This is one of my favorite. This also gave me a nightmare as a white player. This is like such a modern line, and at some point, I think every top player was getting into this position. I mean, they have played from both colors, and no one, literally no one, came up with King H8. There were so many top level games, and what was most baffling was, okay, you played this against Anand, not only King H8, but after D4 to answer with H6. I don't know if it is my lack of understanding, or I mean this is not very natural for me, like in this position to play King H8 and to answer D4 with H6. Tell me how.
Yeah, I think the idea is that once white has played d4, then g5, g4 adds another pressure on the pawn d4.
All right.
So it's not easy to protect this pawn with normal means because you have to protect it with bishop e3, but in some lines the e4 pawn is hanging. And therefore h6 just prepares g5, g4, as a logical continuation, because by playing king h8, you're not really adding any value at the moment. I mean, to the position. You just want to retreat with your knight,
Mm-hmm.
And once he played d4, now the center is a bit shaky. But if you allow white to bring his pieces and protect the center,
Mm-hmm.
then you will not be able to compensate the loss of tempo with king h8. So therefore, you have to prepare h65.
Amazing. I see in the chat, Padmini Raut is asking answer center with flank attack. Yeah, actually, that's a quite interesting observation that general principle is if somebody attacks on the flank, you open up the center. But here we are seeing completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go on.
I think in this modern openings,
Mm-hmm.
in many cases, the logic is not visible immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you go a little bit deeper into details, then you see the clear logic.
Right. Right. By the way, just out of curiosity, here bishop e3, you want to take on e4 or what? Because I have d e5, right?
This is one of the lines. I think I can go. There was some tactical line. Maybe don't remember exactly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can check. Maybe it's just you can take and play d5 or something. And I remember I also saw this. I also just I'm unable to remember what was the maybe it was EDCD d5 that was the way to go. By the way, this reminded me like this king h8 and h6. This whole king h8 was also very crucial in your this particular game. Do you remember this?
Yes, sure.
This was a very important game, right? I think you had to win this in order to win the Linares, or
well, Leko was leading by half a point, and I thought that I was sharing second with Topalov, I think, and yeah, I was happy with the draw generally because this was my first Linares.
Right.
And then, then he played this Bishop G5 novelty, and I spent a long time thinking, and I thought, well, I should surprise him for sure.
Oh, this was your on the board?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really fascinating.
I think I spent about 35 minutes on this one.
This I was not aware. I thought this is also some kind of opening preparation.
No. It was Peter who surprised me first. And then around here he played Bishop A4 and offered me a draw, but it was too late.
Yeah, what is going on here? Takes. Yeah, okay, this is just very pleasant. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, Setu is saying Linares 2006. Leko game. Yeah, it's true. So, in your games, there have been lots of X and sacrifice ideas. I was just, let's just take one of those. Let me see if it is. Yeah. So I'm just thinking like when you grew up, obviously there must be some influence on Petrosian style, right? Like Tigran Petrosian was like national. I mean, he is a great star, of course, in Armenia and worldwide. But his style is also extremely difficult. Just like yours, it's very difficult to copy. For me, also, Petrosian style is also incredibly difficult to copy. Did you have any influence in your play? Going through Petrosian's games and so on.
I think my love for maneuvering definitely comes from Petrosian. I really love playing it slow. At some games, I like to bring my pieces somewhere and improve them.
Right.
But obviously, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to copy his style and come up with ideas like he did because I mean, when you look at his games, you're like, why is this guy going so slowly?
Right.
Sometimes,
what? Yeah, please.
And then you understand that it actually not just good move, but also psychologically, it's so difficult to face such approach when your opponent is not really rushing anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
but you know that his plans are going to be executed.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And very recently, I think this book came, Python Strategy, which came out in English, and I was reading that. It's a fascinating book, and I'm pretty sure you must have read it in Russian long back, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. So yeah, this particular game, I was a bit surprised that Anish played your line against you. This Bishop E2 castle was clearly
Yeah.
yeah. So so your first extend sack that I wanted to show was this, yeah.
Yeah. We analyzed this a little bit with my second.
So this was part of your preparation, and
Yeah. Yeah. And we understood that although computer thought that white is better,
mm-hmm.
it's not easy to play with white because it's not easy to understand where the pieces should go.
True.
Because black is slowly pressing, black is slowly trying to attack this weak f3 pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, from practical reasons, I mean, how you're going to do something against it. Once you play e4,
Mm-hmm.
then the knight might come reroute from d7, f8, g6, or in some other way.
Yeah, somewhere to f4.
Yeah, it's a practical decision and a good sacrifice.
Yeah, no, I'm not going through the full game, but it was a beautiful game. Those who are interested to see this game, this is Anish Giri versus Levon Aronian, Vacancy round 10 in 2012. Talking about some more extend sacks. Again, it comes down to this your branding, like this knight a3. Again, something that you came up with, where no one was doing that. If you could share this, and then I'll go to the extend sack position.
Yeah, I thought because the problem of this line when you play with white,
Mm-hmm.
there is just too much theory, and there is just at some point the game's just starting becoming one. I mean,
Right.
there was he would play queen c2, b3, you know, this
Sure,
bishop f4, knight
the main
b4,
line. Mm-hmm.
and then things would get exchanged, and then you had to just fight around this, I don't know, plus 0-10, plus 0-20, and games would eventually turn into a draw.
Mm-hmm.
93 was my desire to just start the game anew,
Right.
without getting in the details, because you against it you can't really play in the same way you're used to, because the rook comes to c1 much earlier.
Right. Right.
And there is much more pressure on the c6
file.
pawn. Yeah. So to play with usual b6 is impossible in here.
True.
I mean, it's not bad, but it's more dangerous.
Sure. And in the game, immediately there was again one more extend sack. Was this also part of preparation, or this just came
No.
naturally? This is natural, right?
Yeah, this came naturally because I felt that taking on a3 cannot be good, so it has to be punished somehow.
Sure. Yeah, this was another beautiful game. Again, Vacancy 2017.
I have some nice games against Anish Boy.
Yeah. Actually, this also I wanted to ask you. Like, do you believe in some players will have difficult score with particular players? Like, okay, talking about Petrosian, let's say Petrosian and Tal, they had not very good score with Korchanov. Or
Yes.
I think at some point Anand was having difficulties with Gelfand. So
Yes.
similarly, I think Anish always struggled with you. Why this happens? Like, we see players of similar rating, but one particular player is having much more better result than the other player. Why this happens?
I think it's a matter of styles. I think it's just some player has an unpleasant approach to the game for the other player. For example, in my case, it was always Kramnik, because I would never come out of the opening with him. I would always, because, well, it's natural. He worked much more on chess, and things that I thought that were new were analyzed by him
Right,
before.
right. Yeah, another one. This is also beautiful against Karyakin.
Yeah, it was. This is more about not letting your opponent develop.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, on number of games I was seeing this. Um, let's say, this is the famous one. By the way, yeah, this particular game, let me get to a particular position. So this was your game with Navara,
Yes.
and you went here. A fascinating game. Knight f6, you took, played queen f5, and just completely
Mm-hmm.
crushed him. This was rapid even.
Yes.
What was interesting is, if I remember correctly, and as some of my friends also said that, I think in interview you mentioned that you liked this kind of domination
Uh-huh.
in chess, and
Yeah.
you particularly mentioned about Boleslavsky and
Yes.
a kind of domination where a minor piece is getting attacked. That was
Yeah.
fascinating for me. If you could enlighten a bit on this part.
Yeah. I think that's a quote that I was told once. I don't remember by who, and he said that that's the I think it was Boleslavsky's quote. That's the beauty. The real beauty of the game is when you attack a minor piece and it has nowhere to go, and
Okay.
you just capture. You attack it with other minor piece, or with the queen, or with the rook. So
Sounds pretty easy. If you attack and it cannot go, you just take it.
yes, and I think I've done it maybe once or twice, or maybe more. But I remember once I did it against Wesley. I attacked his knight, and knight had nowhere to go.
Ah, very nice. You spoke about your favorite book, Seven Deadly Chess Sins. And
Yes,
you like that approach, and you said someday, if you would write something, it will be something like this. I always felt that in recent times, top players are not writing books. I mean, okay, Girlfriend wrote, of course, but in earlier
yes.
times, let's say, we can at least find the collection of their games. But in recent times, it just does not happen. So, in my opinion, it's very difficult to copy this. Like, if you would come up with a book where you are sharing your thoughts, that
Hmm.
no other author can do. It's impossible to do. Uh, so two questions. One is, why is this happening, and second, will we ever see any books by you?
I think there are not many books because we just have plainly more tournaments to play, and also it's a question of um, you're writing a book while being a practical player. You're kind of afraid to show some of your sides because players became so close to each other. I mean, the levels of the field is so equal that even little information you think is valuable not to share. And the other reason I think is also that some of the players, I don't think they believe they can write a good book. I believe I can write a good book,
You can
and
definitely.
one
I mean,
day I will definitely write a good book. So, but unless it's good, I'm not going to print it. So I will have to dedicate myself
fair
and
enough. Fair
do it.
enough.